How's everybody else?
Good.
That's good.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. You know, just hanging in there.
Mm-hmm.
Pino, you hanging in there? It's good to hear.
Yeah, How are you doing?
Good.
You're at the high school now, huh?
What's that?
You're at the high school now?
Yeah, I've made my semi-triumphant return to the high school.
Oh. Are you in your classroom there?
This is like my office workspace.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
I'm up in the library,
Oh, very convenient.
isn't it? It's nice up here.
All right, guys, so we're going to get started now. When I took a look at the registration form, there was only one technical question or technology-based question. And that was how we could share our screens with students so that they could see what we wanted them to see. So that we could also work on something else while they were looking at whatever it is we were sharing with them. So for example, a timer, if we wanted to be doing grading, well, a timer was up and projected on our screen for them to see. How could we do that so that they could see the timer but can't see us grading? And it's actually pretty easy. So if I do share my screen with you, you won't be able to see any of the Zoom functionality. So I'm just going to verbally talk you through it. And you do all have the capacity to share your screen right now. I'm going to ask that you don't actually hit the share button, but you can, if you do right now, hit the green button that says share screen. You're going to notice that a new window will pop up and there's a few options there. So it will say screen, and that will share everything. So that will share your desktop, any tabs that you toggle through, those are all going to be visible on the screen for everybody to see. Hold on one second. It sounds like, okay. Those are all going to be visible on the screen for everybody to see. But if you wanted to just share a specific tab or window, you can do that by so you're going to see screen, and then it's going to say perhaps it'll say whiteboard next to it if you have whiteboard functionality if you're not using a Chromebook. It might say iPad and iPhone next to it. And then it's going to say, it's going to give you, it's going to offer to share the tab that your screen is already on. So for example, my screen, I was looking at Quizlet before I started this. So my tab in Google Chrome is open to Quizlet. It would only show that particular tab to the students. So you could toggle back and forth, to each of your own tabs and, do whatever you need, but it's only going to display, the last tab that you were on to your students. You could also display other open windows. So if you opened a timer or a document in a separate window apart from Google Chrome, you can display those. So for example, I have Spotify open in one window, and I have my printer queue open in another window, and those are options for me to share as well. Another option, if you click on the top, you're going to notice that there's basic and then there's advanced. If you click on advanced, you can also just display a portion of your screen. So if the timer was in the top right-hand corner of your screen and you only wanted kids to be able to see the timer, you can click on the portion of screen button and you can move that rectangle over any part of your screen, and that's all it's going to share with students. Okay. So do you guys have any questions about that? In looking at your own, do you see what I'm talking about?
So I also see there's a music computer sound only. So if I wanted quiet music while the timer's going or whatever, I could put that on and mute my microphone?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm sorry, I was late to the party. Are you talking about Zoom or are you talking about another app?
We're talking about Zoom. Just
Okay,
how to
where's the-
share one screen with your students while you do something else on a different screen.
Yeah, so I figured out some of that, but what was the little rectangle thing you were talking about? Like
So if
just
you
a
go to
port, where do you-
if you click on the share screen button,
Yeah,
you're going to notice that it says basic and advanced.
oh, yeah,
If you click on advanced, it's going to say, it's going to give you the option of portion of screen, and you can
Got
move
it.
a rectangle over a specific portion.
okay. And so the other button, music or computer sound only, that's how I can play music?
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure that out. Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Don't forget, guys, go back to screen share. Down at the bottom, it says share computer sound. So for example, if you wanted to share a video with your class, you do want to make sure that share computer sound is clicked so that the kids can actually hear the audio.
Yeah, and the other way to get there is in the ... the three dots, the
Mhm.
more it comes up, share your computer. So there are two locations where you can choose to make sure, share your computer sound to make sure that's on. Can I ask another question though about reactions? I actually use them a lot.
Mhm.
One student told me he didn't have reactions. Typical
Is
seventh
he-
grader.
Do we know what kind of device he's on?
He's on a Chromebook.
He's on a Chromebook. He should have access to reactions.
Sometimes they might not be there if it's a Mac. Is that what you were thinking?
I was thinking that they might be a little bit more difficult to find if he's on a device like a phone or a tablet.
No, he's
But
on a
he should
Chromebook.
have reactions.
Okay.
Well,
And
he
then
he has reactions for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every-
So what his
Unless
response was, he typed in the chat, thumbs up. That was how he, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, so he clearly has them.
Mhm. But I did notice when I'm in screen sharing, my reactions aren't there. Is anyone, or am I just
Yeah.
not seeing them? Am I just not seeing them?
Let me actually, I'm going to share my screen with you and see if they come up for me.
Okay, and then I'll stop talking and monopolizing
No,
all the
so
time.
feel free to ask any other questions. We have 3 minutes left on the technology chat before we get into Quizlet. Yeah, it does look like it disables reactions for the screen sharer.
Okay, which is fine. I just didn't know if they disappeared and went someplace else.
Yeah, no, I don't see them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions?
Do we have to, I asked in the chat, do we have to create an account or do we just sign in through our Google email for school?
You're talking about Quizlet, right? Yeah, so you will have to create an account.
Okay.
You will have to create an account. So the district, I know that some of you may have heard that the district was going to get pro accounts. Unfortunately, that is not going to happen anymore. But today we are going to talk about both the pro and the basic account. So if you didn't want to purchase the pro account, I'm going to show you how to use the basic one. That's free as well. Before I get started on that, I do want to make sure, does anybody have any other technology questions that they'd quickly like addressed, or are we good? Okay. So just briefly, there aren't that many of us. So I can see most of you. You can use your reaction buttons for this too. So if you have a Google Pro account, can you either just like visibly give me a thumbs up or reaction give me a thumbs up? Using
Do you mean Quizlet or Google?
Quizlet.
A Google Quizlet. Okay.
Okay, so I see 3 people. Okay, cool. So 3 people have a Quizlet Pro account. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen. I've made this brief Quizlet presentation just to start. Okay. So today's agenda is as follows. The first thing that we're going to do is talk about the differences between a basic account and a pro account. Then I'm going to provide some recommendations on which account I think is best suited to accommodate specific needs or a specific group of students that you may be making Quizlet lists for. And then I'm going to demonstrate how to create a Quizlet list in the basic account. Then demonstrate the special features that come with creating a list in the pro account. I'm also going to demonstrate how to share the list with others, so students and teachers, and how to invite students and or teachers to join or access either a class that you create or a folder of Quizlet lists or sets. And then we're going to review the student activities and the options on those activities. So in terms of the basic versus the pro, so we have the basic account and we have the pro account. The basic account is free. The pro account is around $47 a year, 47 and some change or something like that. It's not too bad. And personally, for what I needed, I thought it was worth it to purchase. So with the basic account, when you create Quizlet lists, your lists are going to be able to contain translations. So that's a plus. They'll be able to contain images, but only limited images. And you're going to see what I mean when I go to create a list for you or with you. Students will be able to engage in the interactive activities, including Quizlet Live. So that's, also a great plus. And teachers can still browse and adapt pre-made lists from other users for their own purposes as well. The pro account, on the other hand, you have much more freedom when it comes to images that you can add to your words on your Quizlet list. So you can upload or you can download images from Google and then upload them directly into Quizlet. So you can really customize the images that you want to use. You can add audio. You can format your text. You can create diagrams, which is something kind of cool. You can customize your teams if you're using Quizlet Live in the team mode. And you can also see data on participation and progress for students that are part or that have been added to your class. Okay, so these are all really nice features. If you were to ask me, should I purchase a pro account? Is it worth it? This is, what I have to say about that. So if you're considering it, you may want to think about whether images are going to be essential to your list. So if you're teaching a class of EL students, you might want to have a lot of freedom with the types of images that you can provide so that you can really customize those lists for them. If you have, and you're making lists for low literacy students who would benefit from an audio component, and by audio, I'm talking about audio that you can add. So, you could have a definition on Quizlet, on your list for your students, and then the students in some of the interactive games will automatically be able to hear that if they turn the audio feature on in the games. Or in the activities, but this is an additional audio component where you could add, audio notes, or if a translation wasn't available in a specific language, translations with audio. So that's kind of nice if you have low literacy students. Another consideration is whether you want to use Quizlet to track participation and to see which terms your students have difficulty with. So if you wanted to use Quizlet as a form of, as kind of as something to be graded, if you wanted your students to go and work on Quizlet activities after school, and then this would be something that they would receive a grade for effort or for participation or whatnot, then you would want to have Quizlet Pro for that, because you cannot track very much data using the basic account. So it is important to note that to view the analytics data, you have to add your students to your class. So students technically can view your lists without being added to your class. You can just copy the link and give it to the student, and they don't need an account to view or interact with your list. If you wanted to view their data though, you would have to add them to your class, and they would need an account for that. When they're creating their accounts, sorry, not sure what happened there. Can you guys all hear me now?
Yes,
Okay,
Yes, we
sorry.
can.
I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I disappeared.
welcome back.
Thank you.
It was just kind of funny because it's like what our students probably go through, right? When we fall off for some reason, right?
Exactly. I was like, oh, all of a sudden I can't see my own video and I don't have the internet. But what I was saying is that if you have students create an account, any student under the age of 18 has to provide a parent email address to do so. So that's just a consideration to take into account, you know, in getting in the ability, the ease of the ability to get your students to sign up for this if they're under the age of 18. You know, I suppose you could always give them your email address.
Is
But
that just for the pro account?
that is, so if you wanted to, if you had a pro account and you wanted to track your students' data, they would have to be added to your class. And to be added to your class, they would have to create an account.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, 1 second. All right. All right. So now, let me share my screen with you again. Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to show you how to create a Quizlet list, okay, using the basic account. It's pretty simple. And then I'm going to show you some of the additional features that are available for the pro account, okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm already logged in. So this is my personal account. It's not my teacher account. I only have Quizlet Basic on my personal account. You'll see that there's a button right here that allows me to upgrade to the teacher account if I wanted to purchase it. But this is what Quizlet looks like, okay, when you first enter. Now, I didn't mention this on the agenda, but it is possible for you to search for other people's lists. So, for example, Reach for Reading curriculum, Everyday Math, Big Ideas Math. Many people have already created lists for either the stories or the units in those particular curriculums, and you can search for them and then customize them for your own students. So for example, if I click on the search button, I could do, you know, Everyday Math, 4th grade, Unit 1, and see what pops up. So there's a 4th grade math review. It looks like, you know, there are several options here. You would really have to like go through and search, but oftentimes if you do type in the curriculum name and then the grade or the unit, you will find sets that other people have already created that you can use and adapt yourself, okay? It appears that the curriculum, grade, and unit that I chose does not, nobody has named theirs that. So, you know, oh, here it is, 4th grade math, everyday math, unit 1, 28 terms. If I click on it, it looks like somebody already made this for me, okay? But say I wanted to add, so if I look at this, this is the first term, and if I click on it, it gives me a definition in a picture, okay? If I go to the next one, second term, if I click on it, the definition. So say I wanted to save this list and use this for my own students, I could. All I have to do is choose, I could either add it to my class or my folder and leave it as is, or I could select customize. And I would be able to edit the list, and then it would be saved as mine, okay? So in Google, the Google Basic account, I could, you know, use this box to add an image, and I can, you know, just add or change the definitions. I can also move the order of the words. So say I wanted line segment, or, you know, kite to come after line. I just hold it down and drag. So I want to make sure that I have the cross here, and I drag it below. And now it's moved into the 4th position. So I can change the order of my words. And then when I'm finished editing it, I can rename it, and then I just click create, okay? Now to add a list to a class or folder is pretty easy. So if I click create, okay, it's gonna ask me if I want, at the bottom, I have some options. I can either send an email to share the list with my friends or copy the link and share it that way. I can share the link on Google Classroom. I could do that as an assignment if I wanted to. I could do it as an announcement. I could do it as a material. But you know, there are multiple ways to share it on Google Classroom, and I can actually click on that just to show you what those are. So here I am, it says share to class. I'm gonna choose my class, and then I'm gonna choose an action. So I can either make it an assignment, put it with a question, make it as an announcement, or create a material from it, okay? I want to add this to a class or a folder. I like to have folders and classes to keep my sets organized or my lists organized. So I'm going to click that. And here I have the option to create a new class. So, you know, if I wanted to, I could say create new class, grade 4 math. Okay. And now this set is in grade 4 math. I could also create a folder if I wanted to keep it organized in that way as well. If I go here to where it says create a folder on the left-hand side, I'm going to say everyday math, unit 1, grade 4. And then maybe I will put all of my text sets for everyday math unit 1 in this particular folder. Okay, so it subdivides them for you, okay? And we will talk about how to add students to a class. It's really easy. If you wanted to share a class or a folder with people, all you have to do is click this button that says share, and it's going to share the whole folder, okay? The link to the whole folder. If you go to classes, and you could add members. So if you wanted to add students, okay, you could do it that way. So that's, normally that's how you would share classes. You would add members. So you could add additional teachers if you wanted to. You could add students. And then once people accept your invitation, you can change their administrative settings. So, if a teacher accepted your invitation and students accepted your invitation, you could go in and make a teacher an administrator on the account, and then students would be, left as students, so that they wouldn't be able to modify or add lists or anything to this particular class. Does anybody have any questions about that before I get started on creating our own lists?
I have a question. Should students be allowed to add, I saw a button that said add to the list or invite people, or should we have that clicked off?
So I don't believe that students will be able to add people to your class if they are listed, if they are not listed as administrators.
Oh, okay. And it said something about them adding a study list. Should that option be checked off?
Adding a study list.
When I was setting up the account, one of the buttons or checkoff boxes said allow students to add members or upload a study list. I unchecked the box because I assume this is organized by teachers.
Yeah. I haven't signed up for an account in a while, so I didn't even know that they were giving you those options upon sign up. I would not allow students to add members, nor would I allow them to add a study list, at least not in the younger grades. I guess if you were a teacher and in the high school perhaps, and you had students who wanted to or you wanted students to coordinate on studying for an exam, then maybe you could enable that for a particular class and have students create their own Quizlet lists and upload them.
Okay.
For others to see, but as a middle school or elementary school teacher, I wouldn't do it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. So now what I'm going to do, so now we've used the search feature. It doesn't have to necessarily, if you're searching, just as an aside, it doesn't have to necessarily be a curricular list that you're searching. You could search a topic. So if you're teaching the Civil War, and you wanted a list of terms on the Civil War and see what people had already created, you could do that. It doesn't have to be a curriculum and a unit list. Okay, people have made lists for many things, so you can search all the pre-made lists. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to click create, and I'm going to click create a set, and that's going to help me create a new vocabulary list. Okay, so to create this, I am going to need a name for this. So I'm going to call it water cycle. And I'm going to create a vocab list with terms for the water cycle. So to create a list, you have to add at least 2 terms. So my first term, this might be could be for both level 1 students and the mainstream class. So, maybe I want, a few words on there for my level 1s for their benefit, and then a few words on there that are for my mainstream class. So my first word is going to be water, and I'm going to click water. And I also have to choose a language. So it does say choose language, and it won't let you save the list unless you do. So you have to click choose language, and I want the term to be in English. Okay. And then I have a definition over here. So I have a few options. I could write a definition if I want to. For most of my students, I don't think a definition would necessarily be beneficial. But if I wanted to change the language to Spanish, I could, and I could have a translation there instead. So I'm going to select choose a language. I'm going to click Spanish. And now water in Spanish has come up, okay? So not all of the languages that you select are going to directly translate, okay? This is not like Google Translate. Some of the terms that you have may come up with direct translation, some of them may not. If they don't come up with a direct translation, or if they come up with multiple things and you don't know which one the right one is, you can always just go over to Google Translate. And I want this to be in Spanish. And copy and paste from Google Translate directly into your definition there, your definition space there. As I said, you do have to select a language. So this is, I selected Spanish, okay. I also want to select an image. So remember, I am in a basic account. If I click on image, it's going to show me the first few images that come up from a Google search. So I'm going to select this one. You're going to notice that for some words, very, very random images come up. So you could potentially, to see better images, you could change the word here. So say I didn't like any of these water images, say I wanted something that was more like the ocean, I could select ocean, type in ocean, and then different images would come up. So you can sort of play around with that, but you can only select from the images here. You'll see that there is a button that says upload your own image. If I click on that, it will tell me to upgrade to a Google Pro account because it cannot upload my own image without a Google Pro account, okay? So I am just gonna stick with water here. Okay. And then I'm gonna add my next term. It's gonna be sun. And I know that this is El Sol in Spanish. I'm gonna click image. And I'm gonna select a picture of the sun. So I only need 2 terms to create a set. So I could create my set from just these 2 terms, okay? Say I wanted this to be, water cycle for level 1 students. I could have this, here. And this could be, a great list for all of my Spanish speaking students. I could also add in, some additional words. So if I wanted my academic vocabulary in there, so if I wanted, for example, evaporation to be in there, I could go ahead and I could type my definition either in English. I could, Google Translate the definition from English into Spanish and populate it in here as well if I wanted to. So I'm just gonna, I have my water cycle definitions over here, and I'm just gonna copy them from the website. I'm gonna paste it, and this is the definition for evaporation in Spanish. I'm gonna add that in there. Let's see if I can find a good image for that. I could choose this one. And here we go, okay? The other option is that I have enough space in here. If I wanted to, I could write this in English below it, I mean above it, and then in Spanish below. The only issue with this, you'll see, is that if I have the audio on, or students turn the audio on to play the game, it's going to read the English part with a Spanish accent because I have selected Spanish as the language for all of my definitions. So please keep that in mind. When you select a language for your definitions, the audio for the definitions is going to play with the accent or the pronunciation of that particular language. So if you select Spanish and then you type in water here, when the student hears the word water when he's playing interactive games with the audio, it's going to be pronounced with a Spanish accent, okay? Does anybody have any questions so far? You can just shout out, there's only 11 of us. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So now I'm gonna create this. This is my, level 1 list. Okay. So I can, like I said, copy the link and, send it to the students in a Zoom link if I wanted to. I could share this list with them on Google Classroom. And what I do want to do is I definitely want to add it to a folder. So this is, for 2nd grade, I'm going to create a new list that says grade 2, science. Okay, and here is my list for my students. Now, the other option that I have, if I don't really care if my students interact with this list, if I just want them to use it as like a reference sheet when they're doing, independent work, I'm going to click on this again. And I could print it as a PDF and save it so that I could add it as a material. So I'm going to go over here to where it says to these 3 dots, and I'm going to select print. And I have a few options for how this appears. So it could either appear as a table. I could have it as a glossary. I could do it on cards. So, this is the small version of cards. There are also large versions of vocabulary cards. Personally, I like to use the cards. There's also this 3x5 index card version. So you could also use this and print it as PDF and save it as a material in your Google Classroom or in Canvas, okay? You can also have these alphabetized if you want. Sometimes I like to have them in the order that I've written them or arranged them because that's how they appear in a text. And I want my students to be able to access them in the order that they appear in a text. But I do have the choice of alphabetizing them. And then I could also remove the images if I wanted to remove the images, okay? And then you would just click Open PDF. So I'm going to change this to a list like this, and you can see what it looks like. In here, oops, not sure where the rest of it went. All right. So for some reason, it is not, there we go. I had it on double-sided printing and it was printing the images on the other side of the paper. So here we go. If I go to Open PDF, this is what it's going to look like in PDF form. Okay, so then I could save it and upload it or print it out if I had, kindergarten kids or 1st grade kids that were getting physical packets, or if I were using it in the classroom. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the additional features that are available on the Pro account before we get into if I wanted the students to use these interactive study activities and games. Okay. So I am going to switch over to my Pro account. I'm going to log out. All right. So it looks exactly the same. I'm just going to go in, create a set. I'm going to create the water cycle set again. I've got water. Again, I have to choose my language or else it won't let me save the set. And I have to choose my definition language. Again, I'm going to choose Spanish. So now the other thing that I can do is I can add images that, you know, I find are more appropriate or better. Okay. So if I click here on image, I'm going to say I don't like any of these options. I can go over here to Google Images and search water. And I prefer this image here. So I'm going to save this image to my desktop. And now I'm going to go back to Quizlet. I'm going to click on the image button. And I'm going to click upload your own image. And click on the one that I downloaded. And there is the image that I chose. So sometimes I've done this, I've created like a Google slide. So if a term that I liked wasn't available for, if a term that I had didn't have a picture that I thought best like described it well, and I knew that I had, you know, some low EL students, or I had some low literacy students that needed additional visual support, I could go in and create like a little poster on a Google slide, screenshot it, and then upload that as an image. And I have done that before. So, you know, I'd make a little poster on a Google slide. I'd use my snipping tool down here at the bottom of my screen to take a screenshot of the slide itself and save it as an image. And then I would upload that image to my list. Okay. Not saying that you have to do that, but if you wanted to be more specific, that's a total possibility with this functionality. The other thing that I can do is I can add audio. So say, you know, as I said before, the kids, if they turn on the audio in the games, are going to be able to hear the word and the definition. But if I wanted to give, you know, an additional note, I could always click the add voice recording button and add additional audio. This is also nice if you're making Quizlet lists for kids whose languages are not popular on Quizlet. So for example, if you were to make a whole list of Haitian Creole words and your students couldn't read the Haitian Creole words, but you did have one student who could, you could have them go in. I had a student do this before and add voice recording with translations in Haitian Creole, because some of the translations, when the kids turn on the audio, will not work. Some of the languages, they just don't have the functionality to work for all the languages. They do work for the most common ones. So if you selected Spanish or Portuguese, you know, the voice will speak in Spanish or Portuguese. But if you select a language that's a little bit less common, like Haitian Creole, Nepali, languages like that, the audio function will not work during the interactive activities or games. Okay. There is also this add multiple choice options question button. This is very, very new. I haven't used it yet, so I could just click on it and see. It looks like you could add a few options here for students to challenge them that would be available in the learn and test mode. I'm not going to get into that today since I haven't used it yet myself, but it is something that you could play around with. Okay. The other option is that I can modify my text or format it here too. So say, you know, I wrote agua and then I said I wanted an example of water in a sentence. I can now highlight the word in that formatting appears on the list itself for the students to see as well. So that is an additional feature. That's pretty nice. So again, I have water, I have sun. Okay. And I'm going to give another definition. To highlight that. And there we go. Okay. So now I am going to click create. Again, same thing. I can share the list. I can add it to a class or folder, share it on Google Classroom, etc. Another option that you can do is to create a diagram. So this would be great for like science, math teachers. You know, you could even have a timeline or something like that. So for example, I'm going to create another set. I want my kids to, you know, interact with a diagram, a water cycle diagram. And you'll see that I have this feature here. So I can add and label a diagram, and I'm going to choose an image. So I'm going to choose this one. It's taking a little while to load. Okay. So what I'm going to do over here is I could either add a point, a rectangle, or a different kind of shape to mark the area that is going to appear in my term, like next to my term below. So for example, I'm going to click point and I'm going to put it here on 1, and the term is going to be evaporation. I can add a definition below here if I want to. I'm going to choose my language and it's going to be English. I'm going to add a new point on 2. It's going to be condensation. Okay, and you're going to see that these are appearing below. Okay, these are appearing for you below. You can also add definitions that automatically populate. Okay, so you could either do this with points. Okay, I'm going to actually remove these and I'm going to show you what it looks like to do it with a rectangle. Oops. So I'm going to click like this. Evaporation. Condensation. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to save this. Again, I can save it, send it however I want. And you're gonna notice that in the list, you're gonna have the term, the definition, and then the location of the term in the diagram. Okay, so that students can see where it is. Okay. And then I have, the ability, the students will still have the ability to learn, write, do flashcards, spell, all the same features. So I'm going to talk about what those features look like now. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions? This last part is pretty quick. It's just going through the features here, the activities. Yes. Questions? Okay. So I see a question in the chat. What if you want to move? What if you want to save to move the? What do you mean? Could you explain a little bit for me?
More than one location.
Oh, okay. I get what you mean. So you mean like if there were two parts that you wanted to show on the diagram as being like, if you had a diagram of 4 stars and you wanted to label star and you wanted to show 4 of them or something?
No, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, no, if you have the list and you want to save it to a folder and you want to save it to Google Classroom. And you want to save it to Remind, like how would you do all 3 of them?
Oh, okay. I understand what you mean. So it's pretty easy. So basically you can go back in and modify where you add this to. So if I go to share, so I just click on the list again and I go to share, I can share it on Google Classroom that way.
Okay.
If I wanted to add it to a list, I would just go back to customize.
Okay.
Create so that it's saved again, and then I could add it to a class or folder from here.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Or you could just click this button, this plus button. It's going to add the set to a class or folder. So you could do multiple at the same time too from here. So I'm in the set. I click the plus. I can click a class, and then I can tab over to add to folder. And I want to create a new folder. And there I go. So now it's added to my class and to my folder. Does that answer your question better?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so finally, the last thing that I want to talk to you about are the activities that the kids can do. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. I'm going to select. All right, I got one. Okay. So I am going to go to my basic account because I want you to see what it looks like from the basic account instead. Okay, so I am going to select, I'm going to select, I think I can do this. I'm going to select this list. It's really easy to share with the kids. I'm basically just going to copy the link from the top. So I have a few options. I could copy the link from the top. Or I could share it using the share button down at the bottom and copy the link here. Okay. But basically, when the students click on the list, it's going to look like this. Okay. So it's gonna look like this, whichever way they get to it. If they get to it from Google Classroom, if they get to it from a link that you shared in the chat, however they get to it, it is going to look like this when they get there. So then on the side over here, they have a few options for activities that they can play. So I'm gonna click on flashcards. They have to click on the activity. Okay. Now, what it's going to do is it's just going to progress through the flashcards and they can practice. So they click the card to see the term, and then they click it again to see the definition. Okay. If they click this audio button, they'll be able to hear it. Okay. Now the kids need to make sure that the audio feature is on if they want to use it. So if you go down to the bottom, you're going to see options. The kids have to turn this on, okay? Because this list was created by Pro, it may have already put the audio on, but normally if you created a basic list, that wouldn't be available. The kids would have to turn it on this way. So the kids go to options, audio on, and then they can start over. Okay. So now that the audio is on, once the kids progress through the slides, it's automatically going to read it. If you don't turn the audio on, it won't automatically read it. They would have to click on it. So if I progress to the next one. Okay. If I turn the audio off, I go to the next card. It doesn't read it. I have to click on this button. Okay. So the kids can progress through the flashcards like this to practice. The next option is learn. Okay, so I'm going to click here. Okay. Oops. So I do want to turn on the options for that. I can turn on the audio for learn. And now it's going to read the definition for me. Okay. If the kids don't go to options and they don't turn on audio, it will just be silent and it won't read it for them. Okay. So then they choose the correct answer. And then they move to the next one and it reads it to them. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to exit out of here. If the kids don't sign up for an account, it is constantly going to prompt them to sign up for one, but they don't have to. The next activity is write. Okay. So as you can see, the audio for this is already on for write. The students have the option to turn it on and off. It's going to read them the definition. Then they write in the term here. Okay. I'm not even going to read this. I'm just going to write something. So then it's going to read me the definition and it's going to tell me the correct answer if I got it wrong. If I got it right, it's just going to say, great job, and move on to the next one. The next activity is spell. So it's pretty easy. You type what you hear. So it's going to give you the definition and then the kids can play the audio. And then they have to write what they hear. Okay. Again, the audio for this was automatically on. If the kids aren't getting access to the audio, they always have to go to options and turn it on that way. So that will be something that you want to tell them. Out of the last study activities, there is a test. There's no audio feature for tests. Okay. There are many options within the options buttons that the students can play around with. Unfortunately, as far as I can tell, teachers can't really mess around with these and decide. It's a possibility, but I personally haven't done it, so I don't know if it's possible for teachers to mess around with those types of features, or if it's just students, because the students have the ability, you know, this is more of a study tool for students. The last few games that they have available are match. So they're just going to be able to match the term with the correct definition or picture. Okay, so you know, I can move these together and it disappears. If I try to move the wrong one, it will, you know, click them, it'll push them away. No audio feature, no audio features with either of the games. So there's a matching game, and then there's a game called Gravity. And you're going to see that it has the definition coming down, or it has the term coming down, and then I have to write it here, the definition. I can also, you know, I could change that if I wanted to be the opposite. Finally, the last option that you guys have, and I know I have gone over 7 minutes, so if you have to go, please do. This is being recorded. But the last thing that I want to show you, or the last game that I want to show you, is something that you as a teacher could launch yourself. So here I am as a basic account. If I wanted to play an interactive game with this list with the whole class, I could play a game called Quizlet Live. So if I click on the Live button, I click Create a Game. And because I'm doing this remotely, I would select individuals. So all the students will compete against each other. So I'm going to select that. And then I get to select the prompts the type of prompts and answers I'd like to see. So do I want to project the definition and give them choices of the term, or do I want to project the term and give them choices of definition? I'm going to select this one. And now, at this time, the students would be able to join at Quizlet Live. So you could copy this link, drop it in the chat, and then the kids would have to enter this code. Okay, they could also do it on their phone if they wanted to by just scanning it. And, you know, if you want, we can do it. I'll drop this in here. A few of you want to join in. I'll show you what it looks like and what it looks like on my side of the screen. So you're going to join it. Quizlet Live, enter that code, and then we'll all be able to play the game. And you'll just, if you want to do it, you can see what it looks like on the kids' side. And then as a teacher, I would share my screen because it's going to show you the kids' progress and who's winning. While we wait, Ms. Morelli, you did ask if the kids need to turn on audio for each activity. It does apparently look like sometimes it appears to be on, sometimes it appears to be off. It's a little bit tricky, to be honest with you. I'm not sure what the rhyme or reason for that is. Sometimes I go into the game or the activities and I notice that the audio isn't on and I just click on options and turn it on. Other times it already is. So I'm not quite sure. So I've got 4 people on. I'm just going to click create game. And here are my 4 participants. So now this is what, if you look at my screen, you're going to see that as they answer the questions correctly, they progress. And the first person to get to the finish line wins. So you could project this while your kids play the game so that they can see who's winning. Okay. If anybody else wanted to join so that you can see the student side of the screen, this is the join number. So it looks like the Stingrays are winning. There is a way to play this on Teams. Typically, playing on Teams is a little bit easier to do with the, like if you're in person. I suppose that if you wanted to, you could split the kids into breakout rooms and play on Teams and they could be in the breakout room. But on Teams, the kids would get the same question appearing on their screen, but different answers, and then they would have to talk to decide which one to choose. Okay. So we can wait till the end so you can see what it looks like when we get to the end. It looks like Stingrays are doing pretty good, so they'll probably get there pretty soon. But yeah, so this is Quizlet. Do you guys have any questions about it? Yay. Congratulations, Alexa, you win. Okay. So I am going to stop sharing my screen now. Does anybody have any questions? No? So like I said, it's pretty easy to use, especially to create lists. And if you're just using it to create PDF reference sheets, and if you don't have ELs, or you don't really care about the picture part of it, then using the basic account is pretty easy. Is pretty straightforward. You probably wouldn't need the Pro. If you do have ELs or you have low literacy students, the audio feature and the images feature for the Pro account are really beneficial. All right. Well, if you don't have any questions, then I'll let you all go, and I hope that you have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, thank you.
No problem. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thanks.